Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 35 of the Foundation First Fitness Show with Bob Echo. Thank you very much for lending me your ears for the next 20 odd minutes. I hopefully will be able to deliver some really interesting information on recovery. Today's topic, which is recovery, is something that's been really interesting for me to look into over the last couple of months. Especially having just finished my off season. Yes, my off season for 2018 is done. Today was officially the last day. Guys are all back with their teams or on their way back with their teams. So I'm starting my winter session where I start working with different clubs and different teams and one-on-one individuals and a little less hockey players because they are gone back to their teams. So this is a good time for me to really start kind of venturing into different topics. And one of those topics was recovery. It was something that was almost coming up more often than not during the off season in discussion with a lot of my athletes. So I wanted to really touch on that a bit and kind of go over some of the interesting things that I kind of came up with and kind of thought about and kind of put together and essentially culminated into being what I hopefully will be a pretty good episode. We'll see. The first thing I wanted to discuss is why recovery is so important. Recovery is essentially a very subtle thing that we don't often spend enough time talking about. We do discuss one major point, which is supplementation. And I think the reason so much attention is shifted into supplementation is simply because there is so much money to be made on that specific area, but it really is just a small fragment of the entire recovery process. It's a very important one. Don't get me wrong. Don't think I'm trying to take it away or take any credit away from recovery, but supplementation is not exactly the entire process. It is a part of the puzzle. So the things that I really wanted to discuss today was really kind of give you guys an understanding of the three things that are really going to have an effect on recovery and the time that's going to be needed for recovery, and then maybe go into each one of those and maybe discuss a bit about how you yourself can improve those and how we can kind of improve that area and maybe the things we might need or might want to change to improve your recovery between your workouts. Now, recovery is something that is actually extremely important for a couple of reasons. Number one, recovery is really important because it's what's allowing you to keep performing better every single time you go to the gym. The second thing is it's actually what's allowing you to gain the benefits from the workout. If you're training and you're not recovering, well, then the benefits aren't going to be there because you're not allowing yourself to kind of rebuild and improve from what you just did and really get all those benefits. You will get some benefits, but a lot of them will be left behind. And finally, the reason recovery is so important is because it actually has a huge impact on the rest of your life as well. If you're not recovering well between workouts, there's a high chance that there's other things that are going to be affected in your life. You're not going to be able to kind of perform anything in your life. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to be able to walk up the stairs because your legs are going to be shot. You might be leading yourself up for an injury. You might be so fatigued because you're not recovering properly because some of these little factors are not allowing you to do that. And so that's really the reason why recovery is such a huge part of my off-season concentration and what I've been focusing on, especially in this past summer with a lot of my guys. And it's something I've been really trying to drive home with them. And so there's a couple of things we can really do that are actually going to drastically improve your recovery. So the three things that are really going to affect the way you recover and the time needed for that recovery are essentially this. It's going to be your experience level. The first thing is going to be your experience level with training. Obviously, I'm dealing with professional athletes. There's a very high percentage of them that are already significantly experienced with the gym and have an idea of how to handle themselves in the gym and what to do. And they've probably been in the gym for many years. Now, that's not for everybody, but for the majority of cases, and I mean the grand majority, at least 99% of the population of professional athletes, they've already been in the gym for many years. So their experience level is pretty high. For someone who's just getting into the gym, your experience level is very low, and it doesn't really take all that much time to really ramp that up, especially for consistency's high. But experience level will have an effect on you. The second thing that you're going to want to pay attention to is the intensity of your workout. I've mentioned this before in a couple of episodes. I think a recent episode actually. I mentioned, I believe it was the running episode. I mentioned the experience level in running and how much you're doing. That same thing holds true in the gym. And this recovery topic is not it's not leaving any of those runners or those endurance athletes behind. This is very important for them as well, because their workouts are going to fall into this intensity component as well, and this intensity factor. And in intensity, there's a couple of things that we really want to look at. And a lot of that is, the intensity of the workout based on how much you're doing in terms of, I'm trying not to go into the technical side of things, but when I talk about intensity, a lot of it comes down to, are you doing explosive exercises? Is it very stressful? So is it a strenuous type of activity? Is it like a big competitive soccer game? Is it a competitive, run? Is it a competitive race? Is it a trial? Or is your workout very intense? Are you going to be lifting a lot of weight, extremely high amounts of weight at very high speeds? That intensity ramps up. That also falls into the volume itself. And volume is basically the major component of this intensity factor. And what I mean by volume is the sets, the reps, the weight. So if your sets are high, reps are high, weight is high, or a combination of them that's going to ramp up that volume of your entire workout, that's going to bring up that intensity, and that will shift you to need to recover longer. And finally, the tools and the habits that you're going to be doing. And what I mean by that is the tools that you're going to be using, such as supplementation, such as massage tools, such as different recovery tools that you're going to be using. And the habits are basically things like sleep and eating and stuff like that, which I'm going to go a little bit more into when I start breaking down each one of these. Now, to really kick things off, I'm going to start talking about experience level, because I think it's something that eventually goes away. It usually starts as one of the main contributors, and then eventually starts to taper off and becomes less impactful. And then the roles start reversing, where intensity and the tools and habits really start having a larger impact on it. So your experience level is something that you can't exactly control, especially at the beginning. It's something that's kind of natural. You're not experienced. It's normal. It's not something to be upset about, but it's something that we can improve on by making sure that we're not trying to rush into anything. And that kind of ties into the second one a bit, but that experience level will eventually go away. Generally, the consensus is that by 6 weeks, have already started kind of becoming a little bit the amount of recovery time you're going to need between workouts. Let's say working out my legs or working out my upper body is going to be significantly shorter. So it's probably going to drop to about half. This is especially for individuals who are going into the gym who are doing weightlifting. The amount of time you're going to need to recover is going to drop tremendously within that first 6 weeks. Now, by the 6 month to 9 month period, you're almost considered a somewhat moderate level lifter. So you can probably handle a little bit more. Your recovery time has almost stabilized to being around 1 to 2 days at most between muscle groups. And I don't mean 1 to 2 days by 24 hours. I mean 1 to 2 days by an entire day between that muscle group. So if you're doing legs on Monday, you're not doing legs on Tuesday, you're doing them on Wednesday. And that's where you're going to really start being able to venture into a lot more things. So that recovery level is not going to be as high, or the amount of recovery you're going to need is not going to be as high. So you're going to be okay to kind of skim through that and kind of jump into your next workout a little bit faster. The second thing, intensity. Now, intensity in your workouts is really something that I've discussed. I discussed it in a couple of episodes ago. I've discussed it with the runner episode. I've discussed it with a couple of episodes. Actually, it's something that I probably mention, probably every 2 to 3 episodes. I probably said it more than that. I'm just not really aware of it. But intensity is something that's really going to impact your recovery requirements. So if you go into the gym and you all of a sudden spike that volume, so normally you'd be going in there, and I'm just using arbitrary numbers, so don't think that this is a hard workout. This is an easy workout. It could be easy for someone. It could be hard for someone else. Let's say I'm doing 3 exercises for my lower body, and I'm doing 4 sets. I usually do 3 sets for each of them. I usually do 3 exercises, 3 sets, and I'm using about 80% of whatever my heaviest weight could be. And I do about 8 to 10 reps. Let's say that in that ballpark range, between 75 to 80% of my max. If we go from that to all of a sudden 5 exercises for my lower body with 5 sets with 95%. I did use extremes to kind of demonstrate the extremities that you can go at that sometimes often occurs. Or even maybe you're staying at that 3 exercises, those 3 sets at that 75 to 80%, but instead of doing 5 exercises, you're doing 6 exercises, and the first 4 are back to back. So you're doing the first 2 together, and then then 3 and 4 together, and then 5 and 6 are done separately. That is going to increase the amount of volume you're doing in that shortened period of time. So the density of your workout goes up. That's going to cause you to need to recover a lot more. What we're trying to do is when you are trying to work out and you're trying to progress, one of the things you want to focus on is not necessarily progressing extremely quickly, but understanding that progression is a natural thing that you have to do to get better, but try to gradually grow into it. It's something that's supposed to be there. It's something that's going to help you progress in the gym. It's going to help you get closer to your goals, and it's going to just make the workout actually a lot more effective for you. So if that's the case, what you want to do is you want to progressively grow into it and progressively increase your intensity and almost that density, which is the amount of work you're doing in a said period of time. So if your workouts are an hour, how much are you doing in that hour? If you suddenly increase it, your density just went up. That's going to increase that volume. That's going to increase the intensity of the workout. That's going to make it harder for you to recover. You don't want to push your recovery to need 3 to 4 days, because if you're operating at that level, there's a very high chance you might not be getting the amount that you need in, or you're going to end up kind of hurting yourself because you're going to try to come back a little bit earlier. So instead of taking that 4 days off, you're only going to try to get through with 2, and you're going to be burnt from it, and you're probably going to hurt yourself. So to avoid that, make sure that you're kind of progressing properly. And the third thing, which is the tools and habits, this is probably the area that you have the most impact with. It doesn't have the most impact. It can over time. So in terms of the positive impact, it won't make your recovery, it won't turn your recovery from, 3 days into 12 hours, but it'll turn 3 days into 2 days. And it'll actually have more of a positive impact on your workout. So it'll make your lift better. So it'll make your run better. And that's what we're looking to do. Not so much, it's really trying to switch the mindset when we start talking about these tools and these habits from how fast can I get back in the gym to how well am I going to perform in the gym? How well am I going to perform during my runs? How well am I going to perform during my game? If we switch the mentality into that, this third factor, this third tool that you can use, this third piece really starts becoming really interesting. So the couple of things you really want to work on is sleep. Now, everyone talks about sleep as in, we have to do it, we have to get it, we talk about it, everyone's busy, The thing about sleep that's really interesting is that even with all the research we've done, there's still a lot to be learned about sleep. And a lot of individuals forget that, yes, it's possible. Yes, some of these individuals, some of these very, very famous people deal with, they work off of 3 to 4 hours of sleep, some of them 5, and then others, and then all the research is pointing at somewhere between 7 and 8 hours for a healthy adult to be sleeping. So it's still something that even I don't want to discuss entirely or go too much in depth in it. I'm just going to more or less speak about the benefits of it and the requirement of it and the importance of it, and not really so much about the nit-grit details of how much sleep you need. That's a very different, that's a topic that needs to be discussed with someone who's got a lot more expertise in the area, who can maybe shed some light on why 3 to 4 hours would be perfectly fine for one person, but like the double the amount of time is needed for someone else, especially if both people are doing the same thing, right? So someone that actually is used to only getting 3 to 4 hours to 5 hours of sleep, something like that, is like someone like Elon Musk, Tony Robbins. These are some pretty big names of people who don't sleep all that much, and their lives are extremely go, 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 go. There is not much sitting around and relaxing for them. There is no Netflix for them. There might be, I don't know, but there's probably no 3 hours of Netflix at night. There's probably no sit down and just kind of lie down on the couch and relax. it's probably a very go. So how is one group of people living like that and, another group not? So that's why I don't really talk about time all that much. So when it comes to sleep, one of the things you're going to want to do is make sure that you're getting enough sleep and enough of each of the different cycles. Each of those phases of your sleep are really important. So the light, the deep, the REM, and all those, I'm not going to talk about that all that much. I'm not going to get into the details, but you need to make sure you're getting a nice spread of them. So what you can do is get yourself a tracker. It's probably the first day I don't wear my sports watch that has a sleep tracker on it, but I like to wear my sports watch when I sleep, so it tracks my sleep and I can see how well I slept and know if I need to make some kind of alteration, whether I need to, I don't know, change what I'm eating. Maybe I had something that affected my sleep. So sleep is really important for that. It's allowing you to rebuild. It's allowing you to regrow those tissues. It's rebalancing out the hormones that are affecting what you're eating throughout the day. It's affecting your mood. It's going to affect your performance in your neurological system. So you don't want to rely on things like Red Bull and coffee to kind of ramp you up for a workout. You want to be able to just kind of wake up and be really excited naturally to get that workout in, whether you're working out in the morning or later on in the day. The second thing is going to be eating. Now, I like how sleeping itself, I kind of spoke about it first, and the reason I did that was because it kind of ties into your eating as well. Sleep can affect the way you eat and the thought process of what you're going to be eating. So whether you're going to eat high sugar foods, foods that are going to be more, that are going to act as a stimulus. So you want to make sure that you're sleeping well because that's going to affect what you're eating. Now, eating itself is something that we really talk about a lot because it gets a lot of attention simply because the nutritional supplements and the recovery supplements are something that's really interesting that a lot of individuals talk about. I personally don't use any recovery supplements. I know a lot of individuals do. The reason I don't is simply because I don't really trust what's in all of them. There's no real way of knowing, and that's probably true for a lot of things we eat. But if I can avoid it, I will, and I'll try to go to a more natural substance. So I'll resort to, my post-workout recovery meal will be something a little bit more natural. So it'll be an actual protein from like a natural protein source. So salmon, chicken, beef, something that's a little bit more natural. It could be from hemp hearts as well, chia seeds, flax seeds. Those are a little bit more fatty than they are protein, but they still have some protein in them. Things like that. That's where I'm going to be going to get a lot more of my protein. Now, the amount of protein you're supposed to be taking in and the amount of each of those nutrients is a totally different discussion. It really comes down to your weight and your activity level and the intensity and There's so many factors. That's probably a discussion that should be had between you and a nutritionist, which is something you might want to be doing, especially for your eating habits, to make sure that you're recovering well and able to sleep and vice versa. So in terms of eating, I would tell you that the one thing you're going to want to do is focus a lot on making sure that you're eating natural products. And what I mean by that is if you paid attention to anything that Vanessa Peroni said in episode 25, which I'm going to link right above here, she spoke a lot about, eating things and the way she eats, and she tries to eat things that don't have long expiry dates, things that are going to be, things that are complex in nutrients, things that are very nutrient dense, foods like fruits and vegetables, natural products, as much natural food as possible. And it doesn't mean you can't spoil yourself, but still there's so many foods that are out there that you can spoil yourself with that are still natural products and are still really, really good for you and aren't going to have tremendous negative effects. So that's something I would say to focus on, is making sure that at least your foods are really healthy. That's going to help with your recovery. It's a no-brainer. It's something that we should all be doing. It's something that should come with your fitness transition, your fitness transformation, your fitness goals, or even as an athlete, whether you're trying to be a high-performance athlete, whether you're a professional athlete, whether you're an amateur athlete trying to go pro, or whether you're a retired athlete who's just trying to stay competitive with like running or their own little, their pickup leagues and stuff like that. Those things actually have a tremendous impact on you and they're very stressful. So you still want to focus on eating. It's really important. The last thing that I want to talk about is tissue health. Now, tissue health is something that's kind of affected by both sleeping and eating as well. Tissue health is like the muscle fibers and making sure that that's all nice and smoothed out and broken apart. And the way to do that is by using a foam roller. Now, foam rolling post, the debate is still out there. I'm pretty confident it's heading towards not really that important. I usually don't tell a lot of my athletes, especially when we're doing a corrective exercise day, to foam roll. I feel like it might just end up beating up a lot of what we're doing and kind of the progress that we're making. I don't want to start like breaking apart the tissue and relaxing it from what we just got it to do. But if you do struggle with extremely tight quads, you're dealing with an issue like that, yes, that would be a pretty good idea, something you should be doing post training. So definitely head in there, definitely do that. Definitely try to throw some of that in there. But what I really what I really think it's really good for is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning. It's something that I've been doing for the last 8 to almost 9 months now, pretty close to 9 months actually. It's something that I've been doing for a while now. And the reason I've been doing it for a while and the reason I still do it is because it really makes a huge difference in my day. I stand up a lot, I walk around a lot. And so all that walking around, standing up, doing these different demonstration of exercises, my body has to be able to handle it, right? I can't be dealing with a tight muscle or tight hip or, a tight quad or, a sore quad or something like that. And have like kind of all these bumps and bruises kind of lingering from workout. I've got to be able to perform to some extent on that day. I need to be able to deliver that product for that client who's there, and they're really requiring me to be able to demonstrate the exercises for them. So what I would tell you is that foam rolling is something I would highly recommend you do on a daily basis, preferably in the morning. Do it first thing in the morning. So it's going to really set your day off really well. It only takes about 10 to 15 minutes. So if you have to wake up 10 to 15 minutes earlier, honestly, it's not that big of a deal. 10 to 15 minutes to make the world of difference in your day. I recommend doing it, no matter what. I will say there is one thing though that I will mention. It's more of a thought process or like a tactic that's kind of been going around, that's been said over the years for years and years and years, is the reason why you're always sore after workout. And that you probably know is stretching. The amount of times I've heard that stretching is the reason why you still sore the next day it's outrageous, and it's completely bogus. The stretching is not going to help you recover. It's not going to stop you from feeling sore. It might actually make you more sore. Stretching is, as I mentioned in my flexibility versus tightness segment, it really is understanding the difference between the two. If you just ran for 20 kilometers and your hips are tight and your hip flexors are tight because you had to sprint the last kilometer and you're not used to sprinting, well, maybe there's your answer. You did something that you're not really used to doing. Your muscles just kind of tensed up and it's trying to keep going, it's trying to hold on for dear life. So yeah, it's going to be sore the next day, but that's natural. That comes into your experience level of doing that exercise. And it also plays into a bunch of other things. I'm going to just tag it up here. So you guys, I'm not going to keep talking about it. I'm just going to link it up here. It was episode 31 or 32. I think it was 32 if I'm not mistaken, but it was tightness versus flexibility. So you can go check that out. I discussed a little bit about the differences. But all in all, stretching is not going to change your recovery. Stretching is still good. It's not going to change your recovery. I don't really recommend doing it after. I recommend having stretching as part of your warm-up or part of another day as an entire quote-unquote recovery day, where you just want to kind of foam roll, recover, take care of your tissue a bit, stretch some things out, break some tissue apart, and kind of progress and kind of help your recovery process along. So if you are able to put those 3 things, the sleep, the eating, and the tissue health all together, that's really going to help dramatically increase your performance of your next workout. And it's also going to attribute to a slightly improved or maybe even slightly quicker recovery. But those are things that could really help you out a lot with your next workout. If you guys have any questions about anything I discussed today, You know how to reach me. Let me know. Send me a message. You guys can follow me on my social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook. Let me know what you guys think. If you are watching this on YouTube, you guys can just leave a little comment with maybe a question about something that I said today that you want to go over. I know this is a lot of information. It's a pretty beefy topic, and there's still a lot out there. I was just really going over some of the more important and more technical issues and some of the more obvious things that you can make a difference of. And then there is still some nit-grit stuff that's going to be more on a specific basis, and more on a personal basis, and you know, it's going to be different from person to person. So I try to stay as very broad and general as possible so that everyone can kind of get something from this. So if you guys have any questions, as I mentioned, you know how to reach out to me. Thank you guys for listening on the podcast. If you are just starting off your day, hopefully you have a great rest of your day. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, thank you very much. And don't forget to subscribe below. Leave a little comment. Give me a little thumbs up. And for those of you on the podcast, don't forget to leave me a little review, leave me a little comment. I always love those and I always appreciate them. And until the next time, guys, keep building that foundation.